Hello, my name is Ben Ehlers. Today I will be teaching you about Falun Gong, which has gone on from 1992 through today. If you are thrown off or confused by the image on the right, I will explain. The image is the Dharma wheel. In Falun Gong, it shows the relationship between work, power, and energy. The swastika in the center is now infamous because of its adaptation by the Nazis. However, it wasn't always that way. Falun Gong, aka Falun Dafa, is both physical movements and a conscious mindset. It is a spiritual practice that combines meditation and moral philosophy. It was founded by a trumpet player named Li Hyungji, and it emerged on the public radar in the spring of 1992 in northeastern China. The practice of Falun Gong was not always outlawed in China. Prior to it being banned, it was actually supported by the government, and as a result, the practice flourished. Falun Gong spread quickly because of the simplicity of exercise movements, its impact on health, and there were no fees or formal memberships required for the practice. Many also were learning moral and philosophical teachings through it. Overall, this spiritual practice was focused on the ideas of compassion, truthfulness, and tolerance within oneself. The practice of Falun Gong spread like wildfire throughout China. It quickly was becoming one of the most prominent practices, and as a result of this, the attitudes of the Chinese Communist Party shifted. They started using and airing criticisms of the Falun Gong on their state-run media, and this led to peaceful protests by the practitioners who just wanted to not be vilified to the public. In 1999, as propaganda persisted, the practitioners held the largest assembly since the Tiananmen Square massacre. 10,000 practitioners showed up, and similarly to Tiananmen Square, the Chinese Communist Party reacted harshly. Security forcibly broke up the protests, and 45 practitioners were beaten and detained. After this, the CCP started a national campaign to eradicate Falun Gong. As to be expected in any dystopian society, they carried out this campaign with the public burnings of Falun Gong books, the imprisonment of Falun Gong practitioners, re-education through labor camps, psychiatric hospitals, and detention facilities, in which the authorities were given the mandate of transforming the prisoners, which resulted in the widespread torture and oftentimes even death. As a result of China making efforts to eradicate Falun Gong, the New York District Court gave default judgment against the chief of Hubei Province's Public Security Bureau, Zhao Zifei, for the wrongful death and torture of those who partake in Falun Gong. Today, Jiang Zemin still remains in power, receiving no repercussions for his actions against the Falun Gong. As of 2009, at least 2,000 practitioners of Falun Gong have reportedly been tortured to death, and these numbers are estimated to be much higher. Many international observers and judicial authorities describe this campaign as a genocide. Despite the best efforts of the Chinese Communist Party to stop Falun Gong has taken great strides to make sure their message has gotten out to the world. And this is very much in part due to globalization. This is because of US funded software that Falun Gong uses to surpass Chinese censorship. They have ties with many pro-democratic groups. They have independent newspapers and TV channels that are in other foreign nations spreading their word. If you've ever heard of the dance group called Shen Yun, that is a pro-Falun Gong dance group that actually um, shows and exemplifies their practice and how it was traditional Chinese. Um, it also has had a major impact in leading to the distrust of the Chinese Communist Party. It's almost ironic because this practice started off as just a self-help movement to try and just basically feel better about yourself. And because of the vilification and the propaganda against it, it's become a deeply political movement with which now like surpasses their censorship and does many things to hinder the efforts of the Chinese Communist Party. When looking at the persecution of Falun Gong, we can see many similarities in Nazi Germany and in many of the contemporary issues we learned about. In Nazi Germany, many of the Jewish people were imprisoned after a state-run propaganda campaign. Nazi Germany similarly had a public burning of books. Another comparison we can draw is in the Middle East, where there is a diverse amount of religions and cultures that have struggled to coexist. Also, reported in 2017 by the US-based Freedom House, more than 900 Falun Gong followers between January 2013 and June 2016 were imprisoned, and that's only what's been reported. And lastly, this is significant because this practice can be beneficial to anybody and does not segregate at all. As you can see, although it's not heavily in the news or really in the news at all, this is a deeply important topic and it still goes on today. Um, Not many people know about this, despite it being a big issue in the past. I've talked to my friends about this. I've introduced this topic to multiple people, and I just think it's very significant, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to share it with all of you.